and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on Nightcomsat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiry
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria. It's a bright and beautiful Monday morning here in the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. Daybreak Africa is your one-stop top-notch breakfast show that brings you all the interesting stories happening in and around Africa. Remember, you can stream and watch us live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter at Television Nigeria and via the web at www.tvn.news. My name is Messi Joe.
And I am Elvis Oga. Don't forget to follow and turn on notifications so that you don't get to miss any of our interesting programs. Good morning. Messi Joe, good morning.
Good morning. How was your night?
Yeah, it was fine. How about yours?
It was fine. Okay. How easy was it coming down here today?
It was quite a free flow of traffic. Maybe as a result of the lockdown, we don't get to see the much traffic, and also it's quite good.
And security personnel everywhere. It's really
to
good
make sure
and
that
encouraging.
The lockdown order is enforced,
yes, it's
fully enforced.
Almost everywhere there were checkpoints, and I'm really very, very impressed about it all. How was your weekend? What did you do?
My meeting was quite a good one, but just for the fact that we lost somebody so important to our nation, so I was a little bit caught in that. But
our condolence goes most especially to the presidency.
And then to the family of the chief of staff.
Exactly.
As we progress on the show, we'll definitely talk about that because we have so many issues we'll be talking about this morning.
Yeah, definitely. So let's join Susan Archie at the news desk.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. And covered with programs located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries,
Thank you for joining in on the AM News. I am Susan Achin. 86 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, taking Nigeria's total infections to 627. The NCDC confirmed this late on Sunday via a statement on Twitter. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo has lifted restrictions on movement in parts of the country that were under a partial lockdown and urged citizens to wear face masks. Other restrictions like a ban on social gatherings and closure of schools will remain in force, while border crossings will stay short for 2 more weeks to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has announced that the lockdown to prevent the spread of coronavirus pandemic will be extended by 2 weeks. But mining and manufacturing operations will be exempted to keep the economy running. Chama Roland, the fiancé of Afro-pop musician Davido, has recovered from COVID-19. Davido made this known via a statement on his Twitter page on Sunday. Super Eagles assistant coach Joseph Yobo has described the late Stephen Keshi as a big motivation in his football career. Keshi passed away in 2016 after successfully leading Nigeria to an African Cup of Nations AFCON win in 2013, as well as taking the team to the second round of 2014 World Cup. And that's it for AM News. I am Susan Achin. Let's join Messijo and Elvis Oga for the rest of Daybreak Africa. Do stay with us.
Coronavirus, coronavirus, oh Lord, we don't want coronavirus, coronavirus.
Oh God, hear our cry, for you hold the key to our lives.
Coronavirus, coronavirus, oh Lord, we don't want coronavirus. Oh Lord, we don't want coronavirus. Coronavirus, coronavirus. Jesus, anya chori, yabu coronavirus. Coronavirus. Oh yeah, corona. Oh Lord, we don't want coronavirus. 'Cause they won't keke na juno, uneweli wezanu yao. Onabonyeru choru na Abuja oje Lagos na tubo mba manya gara na ndi nguru ha o webube ndi na-eme nkili ihula na ndi na-esi igwe si chali igbo isi gbaka ndị nyuri isi kodu ihe onye ma ya malụ ya na nka anyị
Coronavirus is a danger disease, we can fight it and win. Coronavirus is a danger disease, we can fight it and win. Wash your hands every time, don't ever shake hands, stay away from mammals.
Corona, you know the show for
Welcome back from the news desk. It's still Daybreak Africa, and we are still here talking about so many issues on the front burner. From the news, we have so many issues like the coronavirus pandemic, which is still ravaging the entire universe, and we've heard from different countries of the world where different activities are to be continued, even though with the lockdown still in place. So, message you.
Yes, Elvis.
Yes. A lot of issues on the front burner this morning.
Yes.
And I'd like us to talk about them one after the other. But before then, let's get back to the issue of the Chief of Staff to the President of Nigeria, Abakari, whom we lost over the weekend. A lot of reactions have been trailing his death, especially taking into consideration the circumstances that surrounded his death.
Yes. It was a sad one during the weekend, Saturday morning, waking up to the demise of the Chief of Staff, Abakari. My only concern and my problem was that before then, there were reports that he was actually responding well to treatment. Exactly. So, and that he only needed enough rest considering his age and all. But then there was a long silence, and afterwards we get the breaking news of his death.
It's quite unfortunate that we get to know all of this after his death, because precisely on Wednesday, he was responding well to treatment. Like you mentioned, that he had to stroll around the facility by himself to prove that he was responding to treatment, and he was even billed to be discharged on Friday. Then that same Friday, we got a shocker late in the night.
Yes. It was very, very, very unfortunate, and it's a very big injury, I would call it, to the presidency, because he was like his closest ally, his most special, not just a staff, he was actually his friend, because I think they had a relationship for over 42 years before now. And considering a whole lot of things, the roles that he played to the presidency within and the assignments he carried out, I'm even asking who now stands in the front line on his behalf now that he's gone. All the necessary arrangements that have been made previously before now.
There were so many stellar qualities and traits possessed by the late Chief of Staff, Abakari, and after his death, we saw all of that from the tribute and condolence messages. Particularly, a particular minister was talking about how he has been able to hold down their friendship for the past 43 years after meeting in Warwick down to Cambridge. If you go through his educational background, you get to know all of those things. But let's take a look at reactions of Nigerians to the way his burial was handled, taking into consideration the NCDC guidelines that were adhered to and the ones Nigerians feel that were not adhered to.
The physical distancing that wasn't adhered to, and in the presence of the NCDC members. So it was quite shocking that NCDC could actually be there at the burial, and then they are seeing a whole lot of activities going on, the social distancing that wasn't adhered to. I mean, you could literally see all those people actually being close together, and you are asking, is there supposed to be like a cause for alarm that probably we should be expecting more cases because of that gathering?
This is one angle Nigerians are looking at it from. And then, thank God, one thing I like about the current dispensation that Nigerians happen to find themselves is the fact that whatever happened on the street, the government listened. And we've seen a reaction from the Federal Capital Territory Authority reacting to those things. A particular message I saw from them was that they could not invite soldiers to beat people who came to pay last respect to the late Chief of Staff. And they also talked about going ahead to dispose and then fumigate the place just to further curb any possible case of more outbreak or exposure or risk concerning people that were there at the burial ground.
Well, are they going to trace the persons that actually came for this burial?
To that effect, there has been measures put in place already, because we also got news that some of the aides who are supposed to live in the villa were not granted access when they came back from there. Particularly, the president was so angry that some of those guidelines were not adhered to.
Exactly. Because now we'll start hearing a case of them trying to trace all the persons that came for the burial. So that, personally, that is what they should have done immediately after the burial. Now, there was a video that was going around, one of the NCDC officials actually pulling down his garments. And in the process of him pulling down, I could see that his gloves were not even on his hands anymore.
He touched some other surfaces.
And he touched other surfaces. Like there was this wall, he touched there. He touched his car. Imagine someone else coming to touch his car again, or that wall that he actually touched. And he left that garment there. He later went back to the car to get a nylon, and then he still put the garment inside the nylon.
With his bare hands.
And still left it there. And he was entering the car comfortably, like nothing was going on.
Let's react to some of the issues we got from the news desk. Some countries are still talking about having the main activities that will keep their economy running still in place, even though amidst the lockdown. Have we seen much of that in Nigeria? Even though we know that essential workers are exempted from the lockdown in Nigeria.
You know, it's just like Calabar, how the governor has made a rule for the compulsory use of face masks and doing mass distribution of the face masks, that if you must go along or carry out your business activities for the day, you must be on your face mask and and use your hand sanitizers and always wash your hands. So they're still going about their business, even in Yobe State. But the thing is that I want to ask a question. Are there fears by Nigerians that if eventually, I'm asking these governors that actually put in place these things, if eventually they have more cases, will they still say people should go about their daily businesses with the use of just their face mask?
You see, one country that has been able to manage the coronavirus pandemic so well is the Czech Republic. And then a look into how they have gone about this business is the proper use of this face mask, because whether we like it or not, the lockdown will definitely put people through difficulties and trying times. So trying to cushion the effect of the lockdown, because the lockdown has an effect just like the coronavirus itself. So trying to cushion the effect of the lockdown, they allow people to go about their businesses, but with the face masks and other preventive or precautionary measures put in place.
All right.
Yes, talking about the fiancé of Davido recovering from coronavirus is another good one.
Yes.
And then that actually portrays the point of the statistic that has been going around, that most times people that lost their lives to the pandemic has something to do with age. Yeah. The thing is speaking on the older people than the younger ones.
From most of the age ranges, I've been saying that from 50, 57, 62, 70. Those are the age ranges. So I think there's more hope for the younger ones, but I don't think it should be so. Like the coronavirus is still another it's still another virus. It's still starting. So like lots of statistics have not been really analyzed about the virus.
Okay, and why we tend to see the cases of older people becoming the most casualty in this case, it's not just about the age. The fact is that some of these older people have underlying health issues already. Like
Abakari, he already had underlying health issues before now.
Yes,
so the likelihood of the survival, I do not know.
Okay, we now step into the street to see street quiz and reaction from Nigeria concerning happenings around. Please stay with us and don't go away.
Yes, with the death of Abakari, do you believe that coronavirus is real in Nigeria now?
Yes, the coronavirus is real for Nigeria. Because no, Abakari is a chief of staff to the president, and then we know that the man is a popular man, and the man is a man of integrity. And the man, what makes him integrity is that everybody is looking at the angle of how Abakari is wicked, but it's because of he needs Nigeria. He scattered for Nigeria. He is a president. He is a chief of staff to the president under the umbrella of transparent. That is what makes him a good leader. He's a good leader.
Why most people are celebrating his death? Why do you think?
No, most people are celebrating his death because of misleading. Maybe most people mislead who the man is. That is what I think some people are celebrating. But to me, for my own opinion, I didn't see a reason to be celebrating for the death of Abakari, because this man is a man that went with the delegation of NEPA in Germany. Then he died because of that. It is when he went there and then he contacted the disease. So if he died because of Nigeria. I think his death is not the death people will be celebrating.
Can you tell those Nigerians who don't believe coronavirus is real and it's in Nigeria truly?
No, I will tell them they should believe, because if the chief of staff died of coronavirus, we believe the coronavirus is real.
with the death of Abakari, do you believe that coronavirus is real in Nigeria?
It's real now. So really hear that Abakari is dead. It's real. The coronavirus is real in Nigeria. I'm appealing to federal government to assist us. Like me personally, that I'm going out, it's because I want to go and buy food stuff. So if the federal government have issue that can help so that we cannot be going out, so that we'll be safe, it will be even help us.
What can you say about the death of Abakari?
Actually, the death of Abakari, like we said, the coronavirus has made him died. So if Nigerians really know that this is the coronavirus that kill Abakari, let us find a solution that people cannot be out so that this thing will not affect Nigerians too much. It's very painful, like we lost a person like Abakari. It's very painful, but God knows the best. Thank you so much.
So, okay.
Welcome back from the street creep. That was the reactions of Nigerians to the death of the late Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, the person of Chief Abakari. And you heard where some people said he was a good man. Other people were of the opinion that he wasn't a good man. While we progress on the show, we'll leave you to continue with that discussion on the comment section to tell us what you feel about the man.
Remember, you can stream us live on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and Television Nigeria.
There are so many other topical issues in the country right about now, and we love to react to those issues, like the video making rounds of a police officer collecting bribe from people. Message. How has this affected our society?
Well, we cannot say enough about that. I mean, this is an issue that over the years, we keep seeing videos, not just today, but eventually every day. We even witness some ourselves. But what can we say? The police officers, I feel maybe they aren't getting enough from the government, so they believe that they go to the street to actually get more than
to make ends
meet. They are human beings just like us.
Okay, we wouldn't want to leave that totally to the government. Most Nigerians feel when they are stopped on the way, instead of doing what is right, maybe showing their particulars and the rest, they feel like, okay, the easiest way out is just to hand over these tips.
Like 15 naira.
They call it white on the street.
Say Oga, and then hold this one. And then, so if I don't have a driver's license or I don't have my papers completely, I know and I have that confidence that by the time I do like this, I can easily move.
And there's more to that than just meet the eye, because most times, if you look at the unnecessary harassment by these law enforcement agents or officers on innocent Nigerians, you will come to think that, okay, maybe that's one of the easiest way to get away or to get off those things, because most times we feel it's important that those people are not there to victimize the citizens, but to enforce, make sure that people are safe and then maintain law and order. But at the long run, when we get to see this continuous harassment on Nigerians, don't you think Nigerians will actually resort to maybe finding this easy way out?
And it becomes scary eventually, because most times you will see the news headline where police shot citizen over 15 naira, and I'm asking, is it really worth it? Before they know it, they do not know when they have pulled the trigger. So I think there should be a review to all of this happenings in Nigeria. So let's watch the video clip now.
No, it's already...
Let's go across Africa to see the news topping the headlines.
This is news across Africa on Daybreak Africa. Lesotho's Prime Minister, who is accused of murdering his estranged wife, has deployed the army on the streets to restore order. In a TV address, Thomas Thabane accused unnamed law enforcement elements of seeking to undermine democracy. The decision comes a day after the Constitutional Court ruled against the decision to suspend parliament. The soldiers have now returned to their barracks hours after the country's embattled Prime Minister ordered them to restore peace and order. The Prime Minister has so far resisted pressure to resign over the killing of his then-wife, Lipolilo Thabane, in 2017. The case has shocked many in the small landlocked kingdom, which is entirely surrounded by South Africa. Africa could become the next epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, the World Health Organization (WHO) has warned. UN officials also say it is likely the pandemic will kill at least 300,000 people in Africa and push nearly 30 million into poverty. The past week in Africa has seen a sharp rise in coronavirus cases. There have been almost 1,000 deaths and almost 19,000 infections across Africa. So far, much lower rates than in parts of Europe and the US. The UN Economic Commission for Africa, which warned 300,000 could die, called for a $100 billion safety net for the continent, including halting external debt payments. The WHO says the virus appears to be spreading away from African capitals. It has also highlighted that the continent lacks ventilators to deal with the pandemic. More than a third of Africa's population lacks access to adequate water supplies, and nearly 60% of urban dwellers live in overcrowded slums, conditions where the virus could thrive. The Interior Ministry in Tunisia says that 2 men, including a suspected jihadist, have been arrested over an alleged plot to infect members of the security forces with coronavirus. The ministry says that the suspected jihadist, recently released from prison, had tried to encourage those who might have the virus to cough on police and security officials. The other man says that he was told to deliberately cough everywhere when he reported to his local police station as part of the surveillance he was under. He has been tested to see if he has coronavirus. Voters in Mali are being called to the polls on Sunday for the second round of legislative elections. The government decided to go ahead with the vote despite the kidnapping of an opposition leader and an upsurge in violence in the north and center of the country. Leader of the opposition, Soumaïla Cissé, was kidnapped on the 26th March, 3 days prior to the elections. Libya's internationally recognized government has said its forces have killed 8 fighters loyal to Eastern-based renegade military commander Khalifa Haftar. The announcement by military spokesman Mohamed Nunu on Saturday came as forces aligned with the United Nations recognized government of National Accord GNA ramped up their offensive against Haftar's forward bases in western Libya. GNA troops have in recent days retaken a string of strategic cities located west of Tripoli, including Sabratha, Soman, and Al-Jailat. Libya, a large oil producer, has been engulfed in chaos since 2011 when longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi was killed in a NATO-backed uprising. That's all on the news across Africa. I am Suzanne Achin.
Welcome back. You're still on Daybreak Africa with us here at Television Nigeria. Those are the news topping and headlines across Africa. I saw the WHO actually talking about 300,000 possible deaths in Africa if measures are not duly adhered to.
You don't need to tell anybody that before, because the way the coronavirus pandemic is spreading like wildfire, this one is an issue of serious concern. And then if you take into consideration the living conditions of people in Africa generally, like the slums where people are jam-packed together,
yes.
and this is a pandemic of contact. Yeah. If necessary measures are not taken, we could say that happening.
Like you said, the slums, the different shortcomings of Africa, water, most especially poverty. So poverty, it has inflated in Africa in such a way that some people may not even be able to afford to get good water to wash their hands with soap. Some haven't gotten enough soap to take their bath with. Talk more of actually using it on a daily basis to actually wash their hands.
There's a whole court of problems attached to that particular one, because And one will come to think, is Africa really supposed to be poor, considering all the mineral deposits and resources we have, even human resources? We are not lagging behind, because when you go to other continents, you have Africans topping so many different ventures and endeavors, and then back home, you get to see the worrisome situation in place. It's actually an issue of serious concern, like I said earlier. Something really needs to be done fast.
Yeah, exactly. There's a video of the APC National Chairman Adams Ashomele actually walking out in the gym, and I don't know why people are actually making a fuse over that.
I think that has to do with the lockdown. So we have to trace the location of this gym. If it is in-house or another place. And then the way, the APC chairman is someone who you can say has some comic side and is bringing humor always.
My own view is that I can't believe he has that much strength to actually pull up that way.
So you can see one way or the other we are reacting to it in a different way. So that's the same way.
I really don't see anything there about it. The user, he's actually trying to keep fit, to work more for the people.
Exactly.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, like you say, he's actually trying to keep fit to work more for the people. But we don't have to look away from the other underlying factors, like if he's really obeying the lockdown, that is, if this is not in his place, and then Nigerians will actually see that, okay, they could react to that. But in a nutshell.
Talking about the rising case from the coronavirus case in Edo State, I do not think that gym is actually not in his house. So it's not possible. Right. Except he's immune to the virus, then he should give us what he's taking.
We also saw a video, or we heard in the news about ventilators being provided to help manage or stabilize people who are already down with this virus. And that actually brought my attention to a news I came across yesterday on the media where someone in Unimed, Investor Media, who actually took it upon himself to facilitate or to just fabricate some locally made ventilators, and they're actually working fine.
All right. Moving further, we're going to be looking at the causes of bad breath.
Thanks for joining us on Healthy Living on Daybreak Africa. And today we shall be discussing on the causes of bad breath. Bad breath is a common problem that can cause significant psychological distress. There are a number of potential causes and treatment available. Anyone can suffer from bad breath. It is estimated that 1 in 4 people have had bad breath on a regular basis. Halitosis is the third most common reason that people seek dental care after tooth decay and gum diseases. Simple home remedies and lifestyle changes, such as improved dental hygiene and quitting smoking, can often remove the issue. If bad breath persists, however, it is advisable to visit a doctor to check for underlying causes. There are some treatments for bad breath. It is recommended that individuals visit the dentist for a checkup and cleaning twice a year. The dentist may recommend a toothpaste that includes an antibacterial agent or antibacterial mouthwash. Alternatively, if gum disease is present, professional cleaning may be necessary to clear out the buildup of bacteria in pockets between the gums and the teeth. There are some causes of bad breath. Tobacco products cause their own type of mouth odor. Additionally, they increase the chances of gum disease, which can also cause bad breath. The breakdown of food particles stuck in the teeth can cause odors. Some foods, such as onions and garlic, can also cause bad breath. After they are digested, their breakdown products are carried into the blood to the lungs, where they can affect the breath. Saliva naturally cleans the mouth. If the mouth is naturally dry or dried due to a specific disease, odors can build up. Brushing and flossing ensure the removal of small particles of food that can build up and slowly break down, producing odor. Fasting and low carbohydrates eating programs can produce halitosis. This is due to the breakdown of fat producing chemicals called ketones. Certain medications can reduce saliva and therefore increase odors. Other drugs can produce odors as they break down and release chemicals in the breath. Bad breath can be caused if they have a foreign body load in their nasal cavity, especially in children. But not to worry, there are remedies for mouth odor. Be sure to brush twice a day, probably after each meal. Flossing reduces the buildup of food particles and plaque from between the teeth. Brushing only cleans around 60% of the surface of the tooth. Anything that goes into your mouth, including dentures, a bridge, or a mouth guard, should be cleaned as recommended on a daily basis. Cleaning prevents the bacteria from building up and being transferred back into the mouth. Changing toothbrush every 2 to 3 months is also important for similar reasons. Bacteria, food, and dead cells commonly build on the tongue, especially in smokers or those with a particular dry mouth. A tongue scraper can be sometimes useful. Drink plenty of water. Avoid alcohol and tobacco, both of which dehydrate the mouth. Chewing gum or sucking a sweet, preferably sugar-free, can help stimulate the production of saliva. Avoid onions, garlic, and spicy food. Sugary foods are also linked to bad breath. Reduce coffee and alcohol consumption. Eating a breakfast that includes raw food can help clean the back of the tongue. If breath odor persists despite controlling these factors, it is recommended that an individual visit a doctor for further tests to rule out other conditions. And that's what we have for you today on Healthy Living on Daybreak Africa. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
Welcome back to Still Daybreak Africa on television Nigeria. It won't be out of place if I say we just attended the dental clinic. And dental hygiene is one aspect of human health that people tend to ignore a lot. But from that video you just watched, I believe you learned a lot. Apart from the food we eat and other stuff that could cause bad breath, you know, saliva is very important in the mouth. So if there are some infections that stop the secretion of the saliva by the taline, which is an enzyme in saliva, by the pituitary gland, we could actually have a case of...
All I can say is that if you have bad breath, please, thank you very much, use mint. Mint sweet, mint gum, just put it and brush your teeth more often.
You're actually thanking God for a face mask. Okay, let's take a look at the lockdown for 3 weeks on the 29th of March. Precisely, the President of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, addressed the nation where he ordered a lockdown for 2 weeks, and after the expiration of that lockdown, he came to address Nigerians again, talking about the gains recorded so far at the cause of the lockdown, considering the aim of it, which is to identify, trace, and isolate confirmed cases of people who must have come in contact with confirmed cases. And these have actually had effect both on the pandemic and on Nigerians. Yes. Let's talk about that.
You know, lots of Nigerians have been having so many complaints about food and no work going on right now. So how do they feed? Most of the Nigerians that work on a daily basis to actually get food on a daily basis as well, those are the people that we're actually looking at. So I think palliative measures have been taken by the federal government. I think in the FCT, about 600,000 households are going to benefit from the palliatives being in food packages, and also for the vulnerable, they are also among the 600. Lagos, on the other hand, has been doing theirs even before the lockdown initiative by the president, and now they have added about 100,000 youths to partake from the palliatives and the money. But the thing we're talking about is the 5,000 naira implementation, and money to be emboldened to the vulnerable and the poorest people in the society. And a statement being made that if you have up to 5,000 naira in your account, the money is not going to be embossed to you. What do you have to say about that?
5,000 naira, it's big and it's meager.
How many days do you think 5,000 naira is going to be?
That's why I say it's big and it's meager. It's big in real sense, but considering the value of our currency, you want to say when you get to the market, before you know, the 5,000 naira is off. So it all depends on how frequent these disbursement of funds will be coming into Nigerians' accounts. So when we are able to ascertain that, then we'll be able to talk extensively if that was enough or not.
All right, that's good today. Let's go to the street and hear reactions with Chiwendu from Nigerians on the palliative.
Following the federal government extension of the lockdown for 2 weeks, the federal government announced that certain palliative would be given to citizens to help them during the period of the lockdown. One of the palliative is to credit the account of those that have less than 5,000 naira in their various accounts and those that recharge 100 naira on a daily basis. Now I'm on the streets of Abuja to get the views of individuals on how this will help them so far. Let's find out. Okay, the federal government announced that every account that is less than 5,000 naira will be credited. Did you hear anything about this?
Actually, for me, I didn't hear anything like that.
So what's your take?
It will be a good one now, because it will be better for them to credit those that have less money in their account. But it's not like crediting those that have less amount. But it also goes to everybody.
Well, it is right thing that the government has decided, but to my own view, first of all, I know that in the situation that we are locked down by this time around, people are in hardship, and the government are saying they will be credited people. When, how, which time? First of all, if you look at majority of people having account, some never do verification of BVN due to the aspect of the system of the bank when we have in Nigeria today. If you look at, some are having the account, they don't have 1 naira inside. Some definitely, they have friends. Sometimes they have junior younger ones. Maybe they deposit their school fees inside that account, and they are saying that his money is above 5,000 that they will not be given. Is it right for the federal government? Then back to that, they should check the villages. The population of people that are in village, many of them doesn't have account. How are they going to get that?
I think that what the federal government is trying to.
So if they are sure with it, that's okay. But even at that, what can 5,000 do for a family of 5 or 10? Could you imagine that? So even the 5,000 is just mere saying.
Actually, I would say government has tried, but yet this 5,000 of AT, I don't think it's enough.
So I think it's a good idea. If I don't know how all this while before now, I expected that the federal government should have do something like other developed countries. They say they used to drop money, they used to drop food items and all that on daily basis, so that the people can survive during this period of COVID-19. So, but then we are still expecting whether the money will come or whether the money will not come. If it's come, it's fine, because people are really suffering. There are people are dying. Some of us that have children, we cannot go out to fend for daily.
Don't look here. Quite a reaction there from the people on the streets, where the man said when, where, and how will they get the palliative, mostly from those of them that are not even having an account with the federal government. Well, it's been a nice time with you. I will really quit our indulgence to abide by the lockdown rule from the federal government. Let's stay at home, and all palliatives will be duly shared amongst Nigerians.
Most people don't feel to believe that coronavirus pandemic is real, but you've seen, you've heard people who have suffered this pandemic and who have actually died as a result of this pandemic. So I would like to implore you to stay safe, obey and adhere to all the preventive and precautionary measures, and do remember to join us tomorrow, same time, same station. Until we come away again, my name is Elvis Oga.
Please stay tuned for Chiwendo as she brings on board the business report. My name is Mercy Joe.
My name is Chiwendo Osisiago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business, I mean your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services. You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
Satellite TV based in the heart of Abuja, transmitting on the free-to-air bouquet on Night on Sat platform. Television Nigeria, the home of movies, documentaries, music, birthday parties, entertainment, events, and many more. You can reach us at Television House or opposite White House Mansion, Guzape area, Abuja, or visit us at www.tvn.com or call us on 080-9153-5054. Television Nigeria, the #1 choice of the whole world.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NightComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries,
Wash your hands, big jam. Then I take the whistle. Don't touch your face. Don't go to the doctor, just call.
Everyone, thanks for joining us on TVN Business Daily. I am Chirindu, the city ago, and today we shall be discussing on combat to COVID-19 in FCT, the steps taken. It is no longer news that the harbor of COVID-19 pandemic wrecking globally. What is on the mind of everyone are steps taken to combat the dreaded pandemic and mitigate the adverse socio-economic impact. Today we shall be discussing with the Public Relations Officer of the Abuja Market Management Limited as per steps taken in the FCT towards combating the virus, while protecting businesses in the territory. But after this break, you will get to meet my guests, so stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, and in case it is joining us, it's TVN Business Daily. Like I said earlier, we shall be discussing on combating COVID-19 and FCT, the steps taken. My guest is here with me in the studio. He is the Public Relations Officer of Abuja Market Management Limited, beg your pardon, Mr. Innocent Amichino. You're welcome to TVN Business.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, speaking on COVID-19, what steps the FCT management, what steps have you taken to combat this pandemic?
Okay, thank you so much. Before I go on, I have to make it very clear that I'm not the spokesperson of Federal Capital Territory Administration. There's a lot more competent people who can speak on behalf of the administration. But as a resident and as a staff of FCT, I'm aware of the wonderful work the FCT Minister, Malam Mohammed Musa Bello, and his team, led by the Minister of State, have been doing to see that the curve of the pandemic is leveled in the FCT. So if you recall, even before the Presidential Task Force gave directive for the lockdown of the 3 states, FCT administration has also already started, I think it was a week earlier, to shut down and leave open only some businesses that deal with groceries and some other essential products. So they took that proactive step even ahead of that pronouncement. And if you narrow it down to the business sector, especially the market where we manage, there has been a lot of enlightenment, sensitization going on. I see it all over the places. I'm sure you as the media, you're also involved. There's a team of the FCT that go right round into the cities, into the satellite centers from Kubwa to Gwagwalada to Abaji to all nooks and crannies of the FCT, educating the people on what to do to prevent the spread of this pandemic. So they've been doing a great lot as far as we know.
Okay, so if you want to rate them now, how many percentage would you rate? Would you say 100%?
No, of course not. But 100% is achievable, and it requires everyone, especially the media, if all hands are on deck, just like the hashtag of the NCDC says, take responsibility. Everybody should be involved. They are just leading the way. The minister is taking the lead, and it is left for all of us to join hand with him.
Okay. Don't forget that you can call us in on 07032349054 for your contributions and, of course, your questions. Okay, my next question is that are there more specific steps in the various markets in the FCT considering their unique crowded nature? You know, they're always crowded other places.
Thank you. Recall that very recently there has been this argument of whether wearing of masks should be compulsory or not. But you know, like it is said, there's a new one. That is why it's called novel COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay.
So I believe the handlers, the experts, especially the medics, they are reviewing it every day and coming up with a new strategy. And recently the PTF, and in particular the Honorable Minister of Health, advised that in some places like the market, where social distancing can hardly be achieved with certainty, it is important that in addition to every other measure, you know, people should try to put on face masks. Okay, both the seller and the buyers. Okay, so and we looked at it and we felt, why don't we just go ahead and implement this? So we sat down with the stakeholders of the markets, the various markets where we manage, and we agree that this is the way to go. Because if you look around now, the lockdown is essential. It's very necessary. Okay, because like you and I have been told, the best thing we need to do is to stifle life out of this virus by ensuring that we don't get in close contact. If everybody could stay at home, you will definitely know that sooner than later the pandemic will be dealt with. But can we do without food? It is also almost impossible. So there's a need for the markets to remain open. So if the market should remain open, then it has to be safe. Okay? Yes. So if it has to be safe, all the measures that have been stated clearly before now, the washing of hands and the use of hand sanitizer when water is not available, and the maintenance of social distances, and in addition, the use of face masks. So on Saturday, the 18th of April, we started the enforcement of compulsory use of face masks in all of our facilities. And surprisingly, I'll say surprisingly because I expected a lot more resistance than what I saw. I monitored from Wuse Market from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I can tell you for sure I was there. Nobody entered Wuse Market without putting on face masks. Okay? Some of them, because we put out the statement earlier before then, and of course you expected, some people still came not knowing that it is now the rule. You tell them, it's either you use your face mask or you turn back. They'll just go back, and before you know it, they come back with a face mask. Because of course you could see some people who are also hawking the face mask around. Okay? So that goes to tell you that everybody is on the same page as far as this matter is concerned. The important thing is that those of us who are managers in several areas should just do well to continue to lead the public. They are just waiting for people who will guide them. And we are doing definitely that, and they are following.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a question. You talked about using the use of face masks. So yes. How well can someone wear the face mask? Because many people are confused on how well to wear the face mask.
Okay, well, I'm not an expert in this, but I can just rely on what is available out there by the expert. Like you see, this one I'm wearing now, definitely you need to cover it, because you see some people who wear the face mask, okay, and they either cover their mouth and not their nose. Oh, okay. And sometimes you see some people, like you see on social media, they are wearing face masks, but when they want to cough, they remove it. It defeats the whole essence. Okay? So as I'm wearing my face mask now, it is expected that, for instance, if I'm not sure now if we have up to the 2 meter recommended. Okay? Yeah. The idea is, if I'm talking and my saliva is coming out, there are some people who talk and you see saliva coming out. It doesn't get to you because it is the droppings that brings about the infection, isn't it? Yeah. Okay? So if I talk, if I sneeze, if I cough, okay, it won't get to you because I'm wearing the face mask. And if you're wearing, that makes assurance doubly sure. Yeah. So that's the most I can say about it.
Okay, but is this supposed to be on this other side or the other side?
Oh, well, what I read is that if I'm wearing it like this, that means I'm just wearing it, I'm protecting myself. But if I wear it the other way around, that means I'm either a carrier, or I have cough, or I have catarrh. I just want to protect you from me. If I'm also a medic and I'm in a hospital, the green or blue part, depending on the color that is inside, will have to show. So what I understand that this is the right way to wear it for you and I.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we go on a quick break, I want to ask you another question. Okay, should the federal government lift the lockdown partially or fully? And what stringent safety protocols may we expect in this market? Can we expect?
Are you asking me of my personal view?
Yes, sir.
If they should, if federal government
should lock down finally or just partially?
Well, I think what they are doing right now is in order, okay? Because
the honorable and also allowing the economy to thrive, where people get their family. You may notice that just yesterday from Ghana.
I think you're talking about the economic impact.
Yes.
Please said the lockdown, the protocol, safety protocols, just to allow the economy thrive. If by the next 7 days, that is not, if we expect that should also come in what are some of that we begin to prepare our minds to just in public, going in market plus other daily activity that we handle daily that will actually ensure our safety and to be sure that the virus does not continue to spread as what I've seen in the last couple of days. Thank you.
I think basically you're just talking about the economic impact.
Yes, the economic impact. Yes, we understand it very clearly. I was reading something that was posted by one of my colleagues, likening this COVID-19 pandemic to a war. Okay? In a war situation, I don't think anybody is talking about economy. Okay? We appreciate the fact that anything can kill a man, like they said. Okay, sometimes you run away from COVID-19 and you meet hunger. You understand? But hunger is less likely to kill. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In a war situation, you don't begin to talk about your business. You're thinking of, can I survive so that I can go back to my business? But then, this is just the same thing I was trying to say before the call came in, that I was listening to us yesterday while in River State. He was saying that we cannot continue to lock down endlessly. So we need to plan a post-lockdown strategy. And what is the strategy? It comes back to what we are doing in the market. I was trying to say that if the market is not safe, not minding how important that market is, there's no responsible government that will continue to allow it to be open. So the best thing we could do to make the market to remain open is to make it safe. And no particular person is capable of making it safe. It is a collective responsibility. For instance, if everybody abide by the protocol, just like the caller has said, then it is safer. Okay? If we abide by the protocol, which includes the use of face masks, because of the nature of the crowd you see in the market, it's always very difficult to achieve the required social distancing. Okay, so even now and after, it is important that we imbibe it as a culture. If you notice now, we are beginning to live without having to exchange all these banters, shaking of hands, hugging, and all of that. We need to take it a little further. Use your face mask as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, now let's quickly go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue. So stay with us.
Ago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
Thanks for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, it's still TV and Business Daily. Like I said earlier, we were discussing on combating COVID-19 in FCT, the step taken. And of course, my guest is here in the studio is the Public Relations Officer of Abuja Market Management Limited. It is Mr. Innocent Amichina. And don't forget, you can call us on the number on the screen for your questions and of course your contributions. Okay, my next question is the Abuja Market Management Limited, is it liaising with stakeholders in Abuja?
When you mean stakeholders in Abuja, I'm sure you're talking about stakeholders in the market, especially the association, the leaders, the security agencies, and other city managers who are agencies of government as well. I believe that's what we're talking about. Yes, and if you recall earlier on in my speech, I have stated that we're working together with all of these stakeholders. Right from beginning, even before this lockdown pronouncement was made, on our own we have sat down with the traders through the association and wheeled out our own protocol, which includes, for instance, we banned every gathering in the market. I'm talking about before the lockdown. We banned sales, promotion, advertisement, and anything that can draw crowd in the market. Then we put together what we call one customer at a time policy. What it means is that if you have a shop, for instance, in Wuse Market, it is not expected that I come to your shop and I see you attending to crowd. Okay? So they have to queue. If you finish with one person, you go to the other. We also introduced every shop to have at least hand sanitizer. Okay. Then in the market, all around the market, from the beginning of the gate throughout the surroundings of the market, you will see hand washing points dotted all over. On our own, we did it, and the Traders Association on their own joined us to increase the number. The same thing with banks and other corporate businesses operating within the market. So those people helped us to mobilize their members so that they will be able to key in to what we are doing. So we have the consent of the stakeholders as well as their support.
So you say it's only the food sellers that are allowed to sell in the
market?
market?
Definitely. It's only the food sellers and sellers of all other essential products. For instance, things you need on a daily basis, you need your toothpaste, you need your toiletries, and things like that. Apart from that, for instance, in Wuse Market, out of the 100%, you don't have up to more than 35% occupancy level in the market now, at least people who are operating. They are basically food sellers and dealers on essential products.
Okay, so what's your advice to those people that usually come out because you know they hope on their daily, what they get on a daily basis, and if they don't come out, they won't be able to feed. They have to come out.
Even before then, there is something I need to say, which my managing director, Abak Osman Farouk, has been hammering all the time. People who are coming to buy food items and other essentials should do well to restrict themselves to markets in their neighborhood. That's one important way of dealing with this pandemic in FCT and even in other places. You don't have a business crossing the city all the way from Cuba to come to Wuse Market to make your purchases. You don't have business coming from Games Village, for instance, to go to Gariki when there is Kaura market for you there to deal with. Do you understand? Yes, you're living in Kado, you're living in Life Camp. You don't need to go to Metama Farmers Market before you get what you're looking for. You have Kado Fish Market there waiting for you. You could get all your grocery needs from there. That's very important. Then for every other person who depend on their daily income to live, I mean, it's a sacrifice that every day, I know you and I, even whether you depend on your daily income or not, we are all sacrificing one way or the other. But then again, I am aware that the FCT administration in their distribution of palliative are targeting such people.
But most of them are yet to receive.
Yes, if they are yet to receive, that does not mean they are not going to receive. Okay. You know, I was listening to the Minister of State yesterday on Channels Television, and he has assured that those who have not gotten will definitely get. They keep going, and the strategy they are adopting, there's going to be almost 100% assurance that everybody in FCT who needs that palliative is going to get it.
Okay, thank you. So while hoping the traders will comply to the strict directives, how do you intend to comply to compel them to?
You know that this our approach is not, the use of force is out of it. Okay, it involves a lot of advocacy, a lot of enlightenment, sensitization, and we've been getting that. We don't need to compel them. Like I said, just Saturday we started, and from Wuse Market where I was, nobody accessed that market without wearing a face covering. Nobody. That was just the first day. So it gives me an idea that everybody using our market are already aware. And because we are strict, we are determined to enforce it. We don't need to force them. We insisted that everybody using our facility must use a face mask. So I am sure that we may not need any further enforcement to compel them before they use it. They find out that it's very important and they are kidding.
So is it only in Wuse Market? What about other
I'm giving an example of Wuse Market because we started in Wuse. The reports I'm getting in Metama Farmers Market, Gariki, Kado, and all other places where food items and other essentials are sold, and because of that they are open. The report we get is that it is the same story. Yes. Okay. So the important thing is that, of course, you know, we don't manage all the markets in FCT. In the satellite and in other places, there are still markets that are open. We call on them to join the queue, take a queue from Abuja Market Management Limited, and to do the same thing. So that, because if we do it only in the markets where we manage and others leave their own to be porous or unregulated, then FCT will still not be safe.
Okay, so finally, what's your final advice to viewers out there?
Final advice, please, if you must use any market or any crowded environment, make sure you use your mask. It doesn't matter if you're coming into Wuse Market or Gariki or any of the markets where MML manages. Even if it is Karu, Jikoi, Nyanya, Kubwa, Lubwe, anywhere you are, if you must go into the market, ensure you use your face masks. And you don't need to crisscross the city. Please patronize the market closest to you.
And some people are still shaking hands in market. Okay, I remember the last time I went to market, it was Saturday. I saw some people still shaking hands, and I'm like, you know, well, the coronavirus. Yeah, there's nothing like coronavirus in Nigeria.
Well, that is where the media comes in. The sensitization is a continuum, is a process.
Yeah. Yes. I thank you so much, Mr. Innocent Amechi, for coming on TVN Business, and we hope to have you some other time.
It's actually my pleasure.
And that's what you have for you today on TVN Business Daily. He has said it all. Be cautious. When you go out, always use your face masks and other things. I'm Chiwendi Osisiago. Thanks for watching.
Herbal medicine, also known as a tradomedicine, is the study of botany and the use of medicinal plants. Plants have been the basis for medical treatments through much of human history, and such traditional medicine is still practiced today. A Soma Herbal Institute was established by Solomon Balo Sabina to research into various herbs for the improvement of human health. The Herbal Institute came into full operation on the 20th of March 2000. The Institute, apart from research work, carries out consultation with the aim of administering the products of their research on patients with various ailments.
A researcher into herbs. I'm an architect by profession, but the Nigerian Society of Pharmacognosis saw our work and decided to induct me as a member of Nigerian Society of Pharmacognosis. I believe the only non-pharmacist that is so inducted into that society.
A Soma Herbal Institute is committed to the belief that evidence-based medicinal plants and botanicals have a major and ever-growing role to play in the lives of Nigerians, particularly in the area of public health. Solomon Balo Sabina, the president and founder of Soma Herbal Institute, revealed that his herbal products can cure sickle cell anemia, HIV, and the dreaded coronavirus.
In 2001, during the Abalaka era, we call it Abalaka era, we were the only one given opportunity of 2 centers. One is in Niprid, and the other one was taken by World Health Organization to Federal Medical Center Makurdi and use it on full-blown AIDS, 10 of them, according to their report. You see, what we've been discussing is majorly from this herb. And for some of you to show us that it is not that we are hiding anything, as they usually say herbalists do. The name of this herb is Andrographis paniculata. Google and you find what it does in the body.
A Soma Herbal Products becomes the answer to COVID-19 pandemic. We only hope that the opportunity has once again presented itself. Rather than fold up and lock up yourself in fear, the solution is not far from you. A Soma Herbal Product is the answer to COVID-19 pandemic.
The war against insurgency in the Lake Chad Basin has continued to generate talking points, especially with the recent exploit of Nigerian troops and the joint encounter with the Chadian forces. Why has Chad suddenly woken up to the call of clearing their territories, which hitherto was a safe haven for hibernating terrorists, despite a loud outcry from stakeholders over the years since the armed expedition began. Furthermore, the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, otherwise known as COVID-19, remains the greatest catastrophe to befall this generation. With the death of thousands, it has already provoked a global lockdown. As Nigerians join the rest of the world to contain the spread of this deadly virus, many questions come to mind. What are the security implications of the ongoing lockdown? How will it impact on global peace and security? This and more will be our focus on Security Dossier today. I am Lawrence Aldu. Welcome to Television Nigerian. The Nigerian Army has commissioned 55 combat vehicles to be inducted into the Northeast Theatre of Operations to boost the war on insurgency. Commissioning the vehicles on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, the Chief of Army Logistics, Major General Joel Onuigbe, said this is in line with the policy of ensuring a professionally responsive force in the defense of Nigeria's sovereignty. The report is presented in our studios. The Nigerian Army has procured and commissioned 55 Buffalo four-wheel vehicles to increase the mobility and combat efficiency of its personnel in mission areas, especially the ongoing counter-insurgency operations against the Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast. Commissioning the vehicles in Abuja on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, the Chief of Logistics, Nigerian Army, Major General Joel Onuigbe, said this was a strategic directive to sustain a responsive and professional Nigerian Army in unrelenting fight against insurgency in the northeast.
The strategic directive of the Chief of Army Staff for year 2020 is to sustain a responsive and professional Nigerian Army in the conduct of its constitutional duties. And one of the key tenets of this directive is sustain logistic support to all Nigerian Army formations, units, and operations.
General Onuigbe said the newly acquired vehicles will ease troops' mobility, movement of logistics, and combat maneuvers. He assured that the Nigerian Army will continue to defend the nation from both external and internal threats, as well as providing aid to civil authorities in other national emergencies. From the Mogadishu cantonment in Abuja, Lawrence Aldu, TVN News. Welcome back. The war against insurgency in the Lake Chad Basin has continued to generate talking points, especially with the recent exploits of Nigerian troops and the joint encounter with the Chadian forces. Why has Chad suddenly woken up to the call of clearing up their territories, which hitherto was a safe zone for hibernating terrorists, despite a loud outcry from stakeholders over the years since the armed expedition began? These and many other security-related questions will be the major focus on the program today. I am being joined on the line all the way from the United States of America by a renowned academic from the University of Northern Iowa, Professor Peter Agbese. Prof, welcome to Security Dossier.
Thank you very much, Lawrence.
The war on insurgency in the northeast of Nigeria and by extension the Lake Chad Basin has gone on for too long. Why is this conflict not coming to an end, Prof?
It is not coming to an end because it has metamorphosed into a regional conflict. The conflict is still the terrorism by Boko Haram, which centers on Nigeria, but Boko Haram has been able to attack neighboring countries, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, respectively. And its ability to move in and out of any of these four countries has made it very difficult for the group to be wiped out militarily.
Chad has been a country in the West African sub-region, in the Lake Chad Basin, that has been accused severally of harboring the hibernating terrorists. All of a sudden, President Deby seems to be taking the glory. What's the problem? What's really going on?
Well, the Chadian forces launched a major military offensive against Boko Haram and dealt a very major blow to Boko Haram. The question is, why did Chad all of a sudden do this? Although since 2015, after President Buhari became the president of Nigeria, and one of the first places he visited was Chad in order to help coordinate a regional response to Boko Haram. But Chad had not been able to pull its weight. Now it's been able to do that because Boko Haram slaughtered 92 Chadian soldiers in one fell swoop. I think that was the largest number of soldiers Boko Haram had been able to kill in either Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, or the Republic of Niger. So this therefore propelled the Chadian forces to take action against Boko Haram, which I think is a very welcome development. I know some Nigerians are deriding Nigerian soldiers for not having done as well as the Chadian forces had done. But that's to ignore all the major sacrifices and the efforts Nigerian soldiers have made in order to curtail the terrorist activities of Boko Haram. But the fact that Chad now has become very active with its recent attack on Boko Haram, it's a major development indeed.
Are you not worried at the rate at which Nigerians are increasingly becoming unpatriotic with their utterances? I'm talking about chanting down on the efforts of the Nigerian military, especially on social media. Are you worried about this, Prof?
Yes, I'm very worried because Nigerian soldiers have paid a very high price in the war against Boko Haram. Not just in terms of soldiers who were killed, but those wounded, soldiers who have been operating in the war front for several months without seeing other members of their families. So it's been a very high cost. We have not really learned how to appreciate the patriotic sacrifice of our men and women in the armed forces. And it is particularly disconcerting to see Nigerians deriding their own soldiers, despite all the efforts our soldiers have made, particularly in the war against Boko Haram. When Nigerian soldiers are sent outside Nigeria, they do very well. And even inside the country, they have paid a very high price and have dedicated themselves to routing out Boko Haram. And they should be applauded rather than excoriated. So I find it very disconcerting indeed.
But don't you think this is some form of leadership failure on the part of our Nigerian authorities, who are supposed to, ginger the younger ones into hailing the troops into victory, or people who are in authorities, people who should ordinarily be in the forefront of mobilizing support for the military? What has gone wrong? Because this is really very disturbing.
Well, part of the reason why there is such discouragement on the part of some of the Nigerian commentators on social media was the great expectation that this Boko Haram terrorism will not have lasted this long. And so the fact that it is still ongoing since it started over 12 years ago, it's leading to skepticism. And also when people read about the onslaught against Boko Haram, where Nigerian soldiers will say, today we launched attack against Boko Haram, we killed so many soldiers, so many Boko Haram forces and their officers, and yet day in, day out, Boko Haram is able to launch guerrilla tactics against military and civilian targets. That makes people to wonder whether the military is lying. And to be fair, in the past, the military lied to the Nigerian public about the war effort. That's no longer going on. But the fact that in the past the military gave out wrong statistics or just blatant lies had led to some skepticism. There is a lot the Nigerian government, both at the federal and state levels, can do to ginger up more support for our armed forces. But it is incumbent on us as citizens to learn to appreciate the efforts our soldiers are making.
How can we mobilize support? How do we make it possible for Nigerians to begin to support these guys on the front line?
Well, it has to come from the government. There has to be a policy on how our soldiers are treated officially. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I was on a plane to travel from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Austin, Texas. Before we boarded the plane, the body of a dead American soldier who was killed in Afghanistan was going to be taken to Austin to his parents. And we were kindly requested to wait until the body was loaded onto the plane before we could board. And the body was loaded onto the plane. It was there was a ceremony. The corpse was saluted by all the soldiers. Then when we landed, we were then requested to remain seated until the body was taken out of the plane. And again, there was a ceremony. His relatives were there. Other military personnel were also there. The body was then taken out of the plane and given to his parents with an American flag that was draped over the coffin. This was then wrapped up and given to the parents. And I was highly impressed. This is how you show appreciation for someone who has made an ultimate sacrifice, dying on behalf of the nation. So if the Nigerian government can come up with specific policies on the type of respect our fallen heroes can be given, then those of us in the civilian segment of the population will take a cue from that. But where the soldiers are not properly treated by the government, by the military authorities, then it becomes easier for people to pour scorn on the soldiers.
Now, recently, the Defense Headquarters made a clarification on how some Nigerian troops suffered a number of casualties while on a mission to clear insurgent camps, talking particularly in the northeast. From the way the operations, the media operations coordinator, I'm talking of General Enenche, spoke, he suggested that there might be a sabotage of a sort, you know, given the location of the troops, their movement, and all whatnot. Now, this has become a recurring decibel. You know, each time our troops have to face insurgents, there's one sabotage or the other, leading to, you know, a number of casualties. Prof, this is very worrisome. Do you think the authorities, you know, still need to do more to be able to apprehend some of these people who divulge information to terrorists? Or I don't know, I'm just, you know, trying to, you know, to look at it from the other side. What is your point? I mean, what do you have to say on this?
Well, in any war situation, one of the things that both the
did you get that?
Yes, I did. In any war situation, one of the most important things the military has to do is to collect intelligence on the enemies, but also to ensure that its own intelligence doesn't leak to the enemies. Nigeria has not been able to do well on both counts.
Yeah, because from a video that circulated,
Yes.
Sorry, Prof. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, go ahead, Prof.
Oh, yeah. No, I was saying that one of the most important tasks for any military, particularly military involved in a war, is to be able to gather intelligence on the enemies and also to prevent its own intelligence from being leaked to the enemies. But unfortunately, Nigeria has not been able to do well on both counts. We don't have much actionable intelligence on Boko Haram. Boko Haram seems to know more about the operations of Nigerian forces than Nigeria does of the Boko Haram. The situation has improved somewhat, but it was really very bad. And sometimes, too, some of the military operations can be predicted, and therefore it was easy for Boko Haram to be able to launch ambush attacks on the armed forces. So, for example, when those girls were abducted at Chibok, so Nigerian soldiers were sent from Maiduguri all the way to Chibok. And now the distance from Maiduguri to Chibok, it's almost 100 kilometers, I think. Now, Boko Haram knew these soldiers were going to come by road. And so all they had to do was to lay ambush along the path that these soldiers were going to come from Maiduguri. And so a military operation like that, that becomes so easy for the enemy to predict, then becomes very difficult for Nigerian soldiers not to suffer great casualties as a result of intelligence failure. But in terms of video circulating in the mass media, you also have to take into account it's not just the war front where soldiers are shooting against Boko Haram. You also have the war front in the social media, and we have not been able to control the type of images that circulate. Boko Haram is able to upload its video, it's able to upload speeches by Abubakar Shekau, and this gets easy play. And because of the degree of skepticism that some Nigerians have about military operations, it becomes easy for Boko Haram video to be given a lot of airplay.
You have been watching Security Dossier on Television Nigerian. The program will continue after this timeout. Stay tuned. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has assured that insecurity in Nigeria will soon become a thing of the past. General Buratai gave the assurance while on an inspection tour of the Nigerian Army Vehicle Manufacturing Plant in Kaduna, where light tactical infantry combat vehicles were being produced. The Civil Delivering Plant, in conjunction with the Defense Industries Corporation, also produce weapons for the military and other security agencies.
I know everybody is concerned about the insecurity, but unfortunately over the years, since 60s, we've not made any serious headway. Local defense production. And I think if this one takes off as we envisage, we'll no longer cry for any insecurity.
Already, the company is poised to mass-produce vehicles for civilians in order to boost the GDP of the country. Lawrence Aldu, TVN News.
Welcome back. We have been speaking on the war on insurgency and Charles Calm in the fight with Professor Peter Agbese, who is on the line from the University of Northern Iowa. Prof, welcome back to Security Dossier.
Thank you very much.
President Muhammadu Buhari, in a nationwide broadcast, outlined the efforts of his government in containing the outbreak of the novel coronavirus in Nigeria. Some of the measures include a lockdown of some affected states, while urging Nigerians to maintain social distance. Prof, we're going to talk about the security implication of the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic now, and how it affects global security. From your end, what is the assessment of the global pandemic COVID-19 from your perspective?
Well, in terms of the number of people who have been confirmed to have tested positive, the number keeps increasing. So, for example, here in the United States, as of yesterday morning, over 400,000 people had contracted the disease, with over 12,000 people already dead. Now, only about 1.8 million people in the U.S. have been tested. So out of 1.8 million, 400,000 tested positive. So if we extrapolate to the larger population, and the U.S. has about 320 million people, then you know that if even 10% of the population were to be tested, the number of those who test positive will be very high. So this is a major global threat, not just in terms of the health implications, but even the economic implications are far wider than the health implications of the virus. Because in terms of lethality, the World Health Organization estimates that it kills only about 3.3% of those who contract it. That's very, very low. compared to many other diseases. But what makes the virus so frightening is the fact that it can make so many people sick at the same time. And there are no hospital facilities that will be able to admit and treat that large number of people. So that's what makes it scary. In the Nigerian case, it is particularly more scary given the fact that we have very antiquated health infrastructure. So if it were to hit Nigeria at the same rate that it has hit countries like Iran, the US, Italy, Spain, and China, then the havoc that it will cause will be unimaginable. And so any effort made to curtail it, I think, should be applauded. And there is just only one way to stop the spread, and that is through social distancing. Now, unfortunately for us as Africans, that hits at the core of our cultural value.
Do you see any possibility that the path to containing the epidemic is narrowing in Nigeria?
What the Nigerian government did, which was to impose restrictions on movement, to encourage people to maintain social distancing, were theoretically correct. The problem is that those policies did not take into account the economic reality of most Nigerians. You asked, I wrote a short paper on this a few days ago. I refer to it as the Morton's fork. A Morton's fork is a situation in which someone has two alternatives, both of which are terrible alternatives. And that's exactly what most Nigerians are faced with. You either stay at home and die of hunger, or you come out and you contract the disease. Those are two terrible alternatives. And the fact that no provision was made for most Nigerians who live day to day means that it is difficult for them to see the danger in the virus. You know, you tell people virus is coming, it is not yet here. And yet now you have to go without food. You have to stay at home. You have no means of earning your daily bread. Just look at the number of people who hawk things on a daily basis in Nigeria. Look at the number of people who are hairdressers, who are barbers, who sell recharge cards. These people don't have any income other than the day-to-day little profit they make from their businesses. Now they can't do any of that. And the government has no provision on what they can do. You take it where people have not been paid their salaries, and yet you ask them to be locked, to have a lockdown so that the disease will not affect them. This is not how to fight a pandemic. Here in the United States, the U.S. Congress had passed a special budget of $2.3 trillion. Each American citizen will be giving $1,200 as a financial incentive to deal with the virus. We don't have much of that in Nigeria.
Okay, Prof, some religious organizations have defied government orders on public gathering. Now, is this not disturbing?
Of course it is disturbing, particularly a disease that spreads through contact. And then you tell people, don't congregate in churches and in mosques and in other places, because those places can become vectors for the virus. And then you defy the government. You say, oh, you obey a higher order. God is a higher order than the government. Well, if you are not alive, whose higher order are you going to follow? So if religious leaders are irresponsible enough not to care about the lives of their congregationists, those are, in my opinion, I would consider to be foolish religious leaders. Look at it this way. Most of those religious leaders, and particularly the Christian pastors, are more interested in the tithes that their members pay rather than the health of their members. Some of them are even encouraging their members under this circumstance in which most of the congregationists have lost their means of livelihood to continue to make donations online. This is the time when the churches should come to the aid of its congregationists, and therefore requiring people to continue to make donations, I think just shows what the true intent of many of those religious leaders is.
Situation in Jos, Plateau State. You know, Jos has been an epicenter of religious conflict in northern Nigeria for a number of years now. Sheikh Yahya Jingri, who is a leader of the Izala sect, you know, led his people, you know, on a Friday to a Jumat prayers, and thousands of people congregated at the entire mosque in Jos. Now, with the situation, you know, taking a new dimension, and religious leaders continuing to defy government orders, a total lockdown in a country like Nigeria, where a lot of people have to, you know, go out on a daily basis to find food, wouldn't there be a security breach at the end of the day, where shops are looted and so many other security vices, you know, come to play?
Yes, even here in the United States, there is a pastor in Texas who was arrested when an order was passed that there should be no religious services. He was arrested, but after he was released, he vowed that he will continue to hold church services. So there are some churches, particularly down in the southern part of this country, where people have defied the lockdown order and continue to hold services on Sunday. Fortunately, those are the minorities. In the case of the young Izala in Jos, yes, if they say, the Malan says there is no corona and therefore there is no corona, you know that they are just repeating what the Malan had told them. The Malam is not a scientist, he's not a medical doctor, and obviously he's only going to look at this from a very narrow religious perspective. What is important is for the government to be aware that there are people like that who will defy such an order, and the government has to come up with a program in which such people are held to the law.
Is Africa prepared, or we might just have another Holocaust waiting to be unleashed?
Africa is not prepared for the virus. If we look at places like Italy, Spain, the United States, China, Iran, the United Kingdom, these are places with the best medical facilities anywhere in the world, and they were not ready for corona. So how can Africa, with its antiquated health system, be ready for a virus like this? Our only hope is that it doesn't infect as many Africans as it has infected people around here. Because if it does, it will be worse than a Holocaust. And we are not talking about exceptions. We are talking about virtually the entire African continent. Look at South Africa. South Africa has the highest rate of infection, and South Africa has the best medical facilities on the continent. So if South Africa cannot handle it, how can a country like Nigeria or Burkina Faso or Chad be able to handle it? And so if it does hit Africa at the same rate as it has been hitting other countries, then it will be woe unto all of us virtually. And as I was saying earlier, the problem with the virus is not just the health risk, the economic risk, but also it is antithetical to our cultural well-being. We are not a people used to isolating ourselves. We are a communal people. The virus attacks that communitarian essence of African culture. And so even if it doesn't hit Africa at the same rate it's hitting the rest of the world, we also have to take into account the damage it is going to do to this, our cultural fabric, the cultural fabric that has kept us together all these years, that helped us to overcome slave trade, that helped us to overcome colonialism and neocolonialism. So I see the virus as a threat on health grounds, as a threat on economic grounds, and as a threat on cultural grounds. I was particularly disturbed when some Nigerians, when the virus first hit Nigeria, were jubilating that this was a disease of the rich and famous. And I wrote a piece arguing that when something is a disease, when the rich and the powerful cry in Nigeria, the downtrodden also cry. But when the downtrodden cry, the rich and powerful do not cry. Now, so to me now, what the virus has become is that the big and wealthy people's headache has become the cancer of the downtrodden in Nigeria. And it's a cancer not so much in health grounds, but a cancer in economic grounds. The number of people who have gone without food and medicine for the past few days in Nigeria, it's really quite alarming. And so even though the virus has not hit Nigeria in the same proportion as most of us feared, its economic devastation has already become quite apparent.
Prof, before I let you go, I want to ask you one question. Is the coronavirus issue related to the development of the 5G technology? Nigerians are already raising conspiracy theories about this.
Well, when something unexpected like this comes about, people will come up with all sorts of theories. One of the most stupid is the linkage of 5G with coronavirus. It is a virus. 5G is radiation. There is no linkage between the two, none whatsoever. And what has made this seemingly credible is that in Nigeria, this bogus theory is being propagated by religious leaders. There is nothing that links 5G with the virus, none whatsoever. And if that were the case, then Africa doesn't have to worry about it because we don't have 5G installed anywhere yet. It is not true. It is the same theory that says this signifies the end of the world. This is the work of Antichrist. You know, Antichrist. What is the Antichrist's name? Just Antichrist. You know, it's completely bogus. There is really nothing to it. And we better trust science rather than conspiracy theories, particularly conspiracy theories that have no basis whatsoever, other than somebody waking up and just creatively coming up with things that don't make much sense.
Well, Prof, it was a great time having you sharing your views on the current global trends and other security-related issues in the country. Thank you so very much, Prof, for coming on Security Dossier today.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you so very much, sir.
You're welcome.
And stay safe.
Thank you. I'll try. Fortunately, our restrictions are not that much. All right.
Nigeria remains the only country we can call our own. We must be patriotic and defend the Constitution by every available means through constructive criticism, while we support our military and other security agencies as they do their own part to secure the nation. Negative and debasing comments, especially on the social media, will only get us into more deadly quagmire. Be patriotic, be Nigerian. This is the much we can take on Security Dossier today. Until I come your way again with another exciting edition. I am Lawrence Audu. Bye for now.
Welcome to Spectacle, your socio-political and economic program on television Nigerian. I am Daniel Atai. Today, we shall be looking into advanced level of technology in the 21st century IT world, from which the latest drive is the Internet of Things within exponential computer programming known as the quantum computing. What does it mean by Internet of Things, and what is quantum computing? That America, Europe, and Asia are kind of competing and heavily investing in it. Is it all about 5G or program infinito? Does it portend any danger to human body system? Please stay tuned. Let's get to business. What does it mean by Internet of Things? The word quantum in physics terms refers to a discrete quantity of energy proportional in magnitude to the frequency of the radiation it represents, meaning that quantum computing has to deal with or controls any form of matter connected to its energy field and proportionally directs the magnitude of such in real time and space using advanced cryptosystems algorithm of encryption and decryptions. However, the introduction of a new web program known as the Internet of Things, which is an application of intelligent and automatic evaluation of machine conditions, including humans, in real time, plus the launch of 5G supporting cellular data networks, the encryption of all matters under its energy could be decrypted anywhere in the world, just with one execution key. It is a quest for a technology that could control all things that notable high-tech companies such as Google, International Business Machine, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, and even most first and second world countries are advancing for gaining quantum supremacy. Quantum technologies are becoming more and more glorious in different parts of the world. Several countries are running in the race for leading the world with the technology of quantum computing. Notably, according to market reports, the global quantum computing market accounted for $88.1 billion in 2019, growing at a CAGR of 29.1% during the forecast period of 2019 to 2026. Below are the list of top 10 countries leading the race of quantum computing technology, though enhanced but not without consequences on the human body system and organs. Number 1 is the US. In December 2019, US President Donald Trump signed a bill into law that dedicates around $1.2 billion to the country's efforts towards quantum information science over the next decade. The National Quantum Initiative Act represents the government's bipartisan push to lead the race of quantum computing, quantum cryptography, and quantum communications, in this case 5G and perhaps infinity generational network connectivity. 2. Canada. Canada has been ranked amongst the world's leading nations in quantum research. Canada has invested more than $1 billion in a decade. Its research expertise, growing private sector impact, and government commitments to innovation and competitiveness position it in a place to scientific advances drive in the quantum technology development. 3 is Germany. The German government has announced to invest a handsome amount, if not invested already, in IBM's quantum computing research work to drive the creation of a new community for industry and application-oriented quantum computation strategies. The government would invest, or perhaps has invested, 650 million euros over the next 2 years to support the transition of quantum technologies from basic research into market-ready applications. We have France. France has recognized quantum technologies as a major interest area and are planning to invest around 10 million euros over 4 years. Initiatives including the Quantonation fund aims to read as a necessity and recommend using quantum cryptography. The UK government has announced a £153 million investment into efforts dedicated to commercializing quantum computing. The sum of $193 million investment and an additional commitment from several industry players, the total funding accelerates up to over $440 million. Additionally, the UK's National Quantum Technologies Programme has passed £1 billion, approximately about $1.27 billion in investment since its inception in 2014. The Netherlands now is of the leading players in quantum technology as it is developing rapidly worldwide as a quantum computers and networks applications and today's internet building a bigger picture for quantum technologies. A whole new high-tech industry may emerge in Netherlands soon. Additionally, the country is planning to invest or has invested 135 million euros in QTech in the next 10 years. QTech is a quantum technology institute that aims to develop the building blocks for the first quantum computer. Russia is also investing in quantum computing at the Russian Quantum Center. President Vladimir Putin had reportedly raised national spending on research and development, which is R&D, to 1% of Russia's gross domestic product, with $3 billion a mark for fundamental scientific research and development in 2018. China's focus is to outperform the US and become a technology leader. That is, if it hasn't done that already. China understands the strategic importance of quantum technology for its economy and military resources as well. In the past 2 years, China has vigorously participated in pacing up its quantum research. In 2016, President Xi Jinping established a national strategy for China which portrays it to become technologically self-reliant, meaning they've taken over. South Korea. The Republic of Korea has announced to invest $40 million in quantum computing over the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, the country will develop core technologies such as quantum computer hardware and quantum computing, new architecture, quantum algorithms, and infrastructure, and so on. South Korea's research program will ensure core technology for quantum computing and creating a domestic research ecosystem. Japan. The technology industry in Japan has set its eye on quantum computing, hoping to bring practical applications to the market early in the next decade. Japan has planned to invest more than $270 million in a 10-year research plan to make the nation a leading center for quantum research and development. Recently, the country has launched new initiatives to advance quantum information science and technology to the next phase. This has been done to employ such technologies for the resolution of societal problems. Let's take a look into this short video to understand the world-leading quantum computing nation and what consequences may be in the nearest future. And when we come back, we'll continue the analysis.
Urgent wake-up call. 5G means danger for life and physical condition.
The establishment media are highly euphoric in their reporting on the new generation of mobile radio communications, 5G. Germany is said to be underdeveloped concerning seamless mobile phone coverage. As an important business nation, it would need seamless network coverage. Dead spots are no longer allowed to exist. 5G is said to now allow autonomous driving and inform us automatically when the milk bottle is empty, so it would be existentially necessary for our future. Today we broadcast an urgent wake-up call. These are the major dangers of 5G.
Whoever believes that the step up from 4G to 5G is just a next step, comparable with the step up from 3G to 4G, succumbs to a huge error. Because 5G means a gigantic quantum leap, and is the most serious intervention mankind has ever made in nature in the entire history of humanity. In order to install a nationwide 5G network in Germany, about 800,000 new transmitters are needed. 5G means such a massive infrastructure upgrade as has never been seen before. For 5G in urban areas, the providers have to install a strongly radiating mobile communications antenna approximately every 100 meters. What an ocean of antennas! What a radiation tsunami! For 5G to have sufficient penetration depth, despite the shortwave radiation, it takes up to a 1,000-fold increase in transmission power. So 5G has a twofold consequence. First, microwave antennas present everywhere. Second, dramatic increase in the radiation intensity. This exponential increase of forced irradiation of the entire population is an irresponsible experiment on human health. Already in 2011, the World Health Organization classified mobile communications in Category 2B of cancer-causing substances, thus as potentially carcinogenic. Based on recent scientific studies, reputable scientists are demanding its classification in Category 1, namely as cancer-causing. Just how dangerous 5G technology can be became apparent at the end of October 2018 in The Hague, Holland. During a 5G test, at least 298 healthy birds fell dead from the sky. Eyewitnesses also reported that ducks behaved strangely, constantly trying to hold their heads below the water. About 1 week after the first bird die-off, in Huygen Park in The Hague, more than 100 starlings fell dead from the trees, while another 5G test was being carried out. First conclusion: 5G represents a considerable hazard for the physical integrity of humans and animals. Second, 5G is a threat to our lives and our freedom. Through this worldwide microwave antenna jungle and RFID microchips, which are supposed to be implemented into everything, it will be possible for everything to be networked with everything, and everything to communicate with one another. In other words, the Internet of Things. Tom Wheeler, ex-president of the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, gets right to the point. Hundreds of billions of microchips attached to products from pill bottles to lawn sprinklers. We must forget the idea that the 5G future will only be for urban regions. The 5G revolution will affect every corner of our country. What can be connected will be connected. Likewise, also the PC, microphone, and computer camera are supposed to be connected, and through this, a total surveillance system has gained access to our houses. The 5G network can see through walls and houses, leading to digital control of every person. This surveillance concerns not only one's own home, but 5G will also allow a full surveillance of the entire landscape, because 5G has mobile networking capabilities. Every moving point can be observed and tracked. Our homes are meant to become smart homes, and cities smart cities. Everything is digitally networked by means of microwaves. And like this, we are caught in a net of microwaves which paralyze us spiritually, mentally, and physically. In the course of this digitalization madness, money too has become digitalized. This means that citizens are to be convinced with threadbare arguments that cash is outdated. When everything is digitalized and the Internet of Things is networked with the real world, then complete control over every single person will be possible. Second conclusion: 5G paves the way for a surveillance dictatorship of such an extent that not even George Orwell could have anticipated it.
Welcome back. That video you just watched is part of the consequences that may be coming in the nearest future. The consequences in an appeal to the European Union, more than 180 scientists and doctors from 36 countries warn about the danger of 5G, which will lead to a massive increase in involuntary exposure to electromagnetic radiation. The scientists urge the EU to follow Resolution 1815 of the Council of Europe, asking for an independent task force to reassess the health effects of 5G. And part of their resolutions read, we, the undersigned scientists, recommend a moratorium on the rollout of the 5th generation 5G for telecommunication unit until potential hazards for human health and the environment have been fully investigated by scientists independent from industry. 5G will substantially increase exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic fields, that is RF, EMF, on top of the 2G, 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, and so on for telecommunications already in place. Radio frequency electromagnetic force has been proven to be harmful for humans and the environment, says the scientists. The Council of Europe, known from the European Convention on Human Rights, published a report on 6 May 2011 under the chairmanship of Jean Hus on the dangers to public health of electromagnetic fields. The committee calls for the lowering of exposure limits, especially. The committee goes further than that. It recommends removing all wireless equipment from classrooms and calls for special measures to be taken to protect people who are sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. Including the setting up of radiation-free white zones, RFWZ. The recommended exposure limit is 0.2 volt per meter. This is microwave per square meter, which is 100,000 stricter than current exposure limit. Some of the highlights from the EU report are as follows. 1. To reconsider the scientific basis for the present electromagnetic field exposure standard set by the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, which have serious limitations and apply as low as reasonably achievable. That is ALARA principle, covering both thermal effect and the atomic or biological effects of electromagnetic emissions or radiation on the human body and organs. 2. To set preventive thresholds for levels of long-term exposure to microwaves in all indoor areas. in accordance with the precautionary principle, not exceeding 0.6 votes per meter, and in the medium term to reduce it to 0.2 votes per meter. 3. To ban all mobile phones, all digital enhanced cordless telecommunication known as DECT phones, to ban all Wi-Fi or wide area and local areas network systems from classrooms and schools as advocated by some regional authorities, medical associations, and civil society organizations. Most Western countries have adopted the exposure limit for electromagnetic radiation of the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, a non-governmental organization. In Resolution 1815, the Council of Europe heavily criticized this limit. The Council recommends a new directive for the maximum field strength of 0.2 volts per meter. Note, the current standard is 40 volts per meter. Wireless devices exceed the level of 0.2 volt per meter in an area of about 3 meters around the devices by more than 0.2 volt per meter. It is important to note that a GSM phone at 3 meters distance while making a call is 3 volt per meter peak power with poor range. A DECT-based station or DECT handset in 3 meters away while making a call is 1 volt per meter peak power. A Wi-Fi laptop at a distance of 0.5 meters in data transmission is 0.95 volt per meter, which is in the peak power. One of the initiators is Dr. El Hader, professor of oncology at Rebro University in Sweden, whose research in a new analysis of the Interphone study data found that people who have talked on their mobile phone for more than 1,640 hours run a risk or a 2.8 higher risk of cancer, which is glioma, a type of brain tumor, than non-mobile users. It states the telecom industry is trying to roll out technology that may have very real unintended harmful consequences. Scientific studies, both recently and over many years, have identified harmful effects on health when testing wireless products under realistic conditions. But let's hook up on phone with Abdul Hakim Bashir, the young Nigerian who developed an artificial intelligence AI for Chiniki Guards Limited. Let's get to reach him and let's have his take about what this quantum computer means. Abdul Hakim Bashir.
Yes.
Yeah, you are live on television Nigeria and to explain to us about this new technology called the Internet of Things and the program quantum computing. As a young developer of AI, could you say anything about it?
Thank you so much for having me. It leverages the IOT and AI to provide solution for retailers, security theft, and other peripherals.
Now, the Internet of Things, is it meant to control all things, including humans?
Pretty much, I would say it's meant to simplify and make things for humans smart and simple. Obviously, I wouldn't say to control humans, but much more about controlling devices such as switches, lamps, and providing humans an easy way to interact and have better lives. So a simple example would be having an application that can regulate your air conditioner at home, or you can remotely use a mobile application to regulate a temperature or a switch, or in our case, obviously, which is providing intelligence from video feeds to provide notifications to mobile applications, which obviously is connected to internet. So the way I see it's more about simplifying human.
Okay, well, the the advanced technological tools in America, Asia, and Europe towards quantum computing, especially the launch of the 5G. What do you have to say about it? Apart from the Internet of Things, which is a web programming, where we have this new technological advancement in computing under the quantum computer, the fifth generation network known as 5G. You have anything to say about 5G network?
Yeah, I think 5G is a phenomenal technology that provides a huge amount of speed, and obviously it's going to enable a lot of things like if you think about remote surgery, where professional doctors can have a surgery remotely at a very huge speed. That's what 5G could enable. Faster communication, faster inference, obviously. Very recently, I've seen some sort of misconceptions for people, especially on the social media, about 5G and the possibility of 5G contributing to COVID-19, which I think it's a misconception and it's pretty much wrong. But obviously 5G has some sort of radiation, which I believe is not up to something that should harm humans. It provides more opportunities for, especially for us in the tech space, to innovate and perform inference on a large amount of data. Obviously, do more research. So for example, one of the things that we do in our company is we try to get videos to be streamed at high latency as possible. We don't have 5G here yet, but we believe when we have 5G, so the story of us delivering inference in real time will become much more realistic, and people would see it very, very.
Now, when you talk about real time in quantum physics, we understand that for you to be able to activate or animate an object proportional to the magnetic field of location in time and space, you would have to use the equation directly proportional to the standard that we have, which is the frequency of light. In that case, don't you think that the radiation from the 5G launch is directly coming from elements such as gamma, beta, and alpha rays?
I haven't done much depth into the 5G, so I don't think there's anything for us to worry about as far as 5G is concerned. So, like I said, I haven't done. Yeah, I'm not.
All right.
Into yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Abdul Hakim Bashir from Kano State. He's talking to us. He's an AI developer who has just talked to us about the importance of 5G and the Internet of Things. Abdul, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. We are very concerned that the increase in radiation exposure by 5G leads to damage that cannot be reversed. How do I say it again? The fifth generation 5G of radio frequency radiation is now being developed. This is done without dosimetric determination or study of the possible health effect. The media praise, in particular, all the possibilities that this technology promises to offer, such as the self-propelled car and Internet of Things, which is IOT. The consequences for the health of humans, plants, and animals are not discussed at all. Politicians, governments, and the media are responsible for unbalanced information. Ordinary people are not informed of conflicting opinions about this technological development. The health effects from radio frequency radiation are non-issue in the media at all for now. Since 5G is a new technology, there is no research on health effect, so we are flying blind, to quote a U.S. senator. However, we have considerable evidence about the harmful effects of 2G and 3G. Little is known on the effect on exposure to 4G, a 10-year-old technology, because governments have been remiss in funding this research. Meanwhile, we are seeing increase in certain types of head and neck tumors in tumor registries, which may be at least partially attributable to the proliferation of cell phone radiation. These increases are consistent with results from case control studies of tumor risk in heavy cell phone users. There is a fear from some quarters that the introduction of 5G would eliminate all other networks in subsequent time. However, 5G will not replace 4G. It will accompany 4G for the near future and possibly over the long term. If there are synergistic effects from simultaneous exposures to multiple types of RFR, our overall risk of harm from radio frequency radiation may increase substantially. Cancer is not the only risk, as there is disorders and reproductive harm likely due to oxidative stress. So, possibly what is happening in the world pandemic today may or could be due to the supremacy of the fifth generation network known as 5G and the quantum technology that drives the Internet of Things, IOT. It is therefore necessary for the United Nations Organization and its Charter of World Health Organization to regulate this new technological advancement to suit or conform with human lives. And this is where Spectacle will stop today. You can follow us on our social media platforms and drop your comment as regard the Internet of Things, quantum computer, and the fifth generation network known as 5G. Thanks for watching. I have been your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.